Welcome back. As always, apologies for the long break between videos. Surgery, school, work, and the UFO 50 Bingo League take a lot of time and energy out of me, but I am finally back for this. And to, address the elephant in the room, yes, my mic sucks. The old one broke. I've ordered a new one, but regardless, I would like to work on this video, so I think this audio is fine enough, hopefully. But regardless, we are now heading into the Sunshade Castle, which I'd personally say is a bit easier than what we were dealing with in the last world, but that's not to say it's easy, because we're still getting into the real meat of salvaging and seeing how it actually plays with the mechanics that we're otherwise pretty well acquainted with. But that's probably enough preamble, so let's actually get into the world. Though, before getting into the levels themselves, we can immediately see the next world's door. We need something on ID 21 to actually get up there, so let's keep an eye out for that as we go through this. But thankfully, besides that, there really isn't anything else in the hub that we have to deal with, so we'll just be a lot more honed in on the levels themselves this time around. And speaking of, let's get into them. Going into this level, the first thing you'll notice is probably the multiple output points for one salvage point. Although that was also kinda shown in the hub, but whatever. We need -6 cyan to win through the top route, which could hypothetically be obtained in a couple of ways. Most glaringly is the 9 combo blast cyan on the bottom right, which, if opened with at least 1 cyan, will easily get you to -6. However, if we salvaged it, we'd physically block ourselves from being able to open it, as the only accessible white, which gets us to a cyan to actually open it, would be behind the door, so we're going to have to look into our other options. One of them being a cyan sign flip and a full combo negative blast cyan, which, if taken after opening the -2 cyan, would get us exactly -6 cyan. But we need to clear -4 orange for that, obviously implying the -4 lock must be salvaged for that. So, how do we get that? Well, -4 can't be directly obtained off pickups without the top path, and the only way to get more than -1 orange is via the combo door below, so we'll have to salvage that first. But spoilers, you can't make the jump to it on your own, so first salvage a dud 1 lock so you can use it as a stepping stool to salvage what you actually need. Then, with the combo salvaged, we have to enter the bottom right next, and with some basic key exchanges, clearing the positive orange on the blast and taking the negative, then taking the cyan and make it negative, then grab the white, open the combo, we'll be able to salvage the -4 lock. And now with the final salvage in hand, we can go up top, grab our cyan to grab -2 afterwards, clearing our orange as well, so we can open the combo door, take the sign flip, and get out. So starting at the end and working backwards, we need some door salvage that can be mastered so we can actually get past the blank gold. Easy enough, but then furthermore, we also have to somehow get past another copy of it afterwards, after getting 1 eye pink and -1 white. So let's keep that in the back of our mind, but for now, let's figure out how to get past the blank pink. Effectively, the only way is by picking up the exact 0 key, so we'll also need to get 3 pink to do that, as well as clearing our white. So to get 3 pink, we'll have to hit both pink combo doors, requiring many things, but for now, focusing in on the star pink that will have to be forced to unstar. That will require us to spend 2 white, as well as losing any negative black that we have. On the white front, that forces us to go down to 3, which works out quite well for pink, but how do we get rid of white? Well, the only way would be through setting our whites negative with its combo door, then gaining exactly 3 whites via the blast door in the middle. This means spending the -1 black up top immediately, then gaining -3 black afterwards from below. This simultaneously opens all the things to get rid of your star on pink, so you can then grab the -3 pink from up top. Retracing our logic we've followed, we can then go to -3 white by opening the combo door up top, then clear them entirely by opening the blast in the middle. And then, finally, we can open the combo pink so we can get 3 and reach our exact 0 key. and hopefully you preemptively opened those blank locks when you could, so you can actually get across. But now the question of how to get past this gold door needs to be addressed. We do now know that when we get there we'll have 3 black, -1 white, and 1 eye pink. Going down the list, we can't spin the 3 black whatsoever, no the -1 white, and obviously not the 1 eye pink. So what door can we even get past on the left? Even thinking outside the box and trying to salvage the gold door, it just wouldn't work, as we first have to salvage something else to even open it. Ultimately, this is another one of those cute teaching moments, but the description of the level is a very good hint. I'll give you a few seconds to guess before I reveal the answer. Ready? So, we are literally unable to open any of these doors. However, there is a couple abnormal doors here that we can try, namely the blanks that we have to actually open to get across. They're both about a tile longer than the rest, and if salvaged, the one on the right places correctly, but the other doesn't have enough space to actually place, so it just doesn't. So now doing all this once more, with feeling, we can finally spend our master key on the blank white, then waltz right out afterwards. In this level we learn a bit more about how exactly salvaging places its outputs, but as for the actual solve, we'll have to take all the keys, then go down to -5 orange and clear them with the sign flip and -5 later on. At first you may think it's free since there's nothing blocking them by default, but you actually do have to salvage something or you won't be able to spend your master to get past the blank gold. So what's the salvage? None of the 2x1s would work, nor anything longer, as unless we had a 4x1, only one of the doors wouldn't instantiate with a 3x1. Similarly, a 2x2 and 1x2 don't work due to how they're placed, the lower middle being at the salvage point, and they effectively just end up flush with each other. So what door is the odd one out? Ignoring what physically can't be salvaged, the only one that doesn't match any of those criteria is the 1x3 blank black in the top right. So now we have to figure out what to actually take to get to it. We need to take purple to even reach the black door and salvage point, meaning we can't take black nor white, although the first was obvious. Similarly, we can't take cyan due to it being in the path to the 1x3, and since we need some way to get up there at all, we must take pink to have something to stand on. Lastly, if we went down now, we wouldn't be able to get back up to the salvage point after clearing our path to the black door, meaning we must also take orange. So we can now just simply clear our path to the black door in question, jump back up to the salvage point, and run right back to salvage it. We then see that, sure enough, neither door on the bottom instantiated due to both blocking each other, letting us have free access to the keys. From there, it's entirely straightforward, and we can just move on to the next level. A very simple goal here, get rid of all 36 of our pure keys. This can only really be reached by having 3 instances of the 12 locks available, thus meaning both salvage points will have to take the 12 lock. We can't use the 12 lock behind the 1 lock whatsoever, as we won't be able to get down to 0 after opening the 1 lock, and since we can salvage that 12 lock anyways, we have to start up top. The first salvage is relatively easy, just grabbing your green so you can open the quote-unquote unopenable green with a master. Then you just hit salvage 15 on the 12 lock. Once that's done, you'll then have to use the master to reach salvage 16, meaning we must instead salvage the 12 lock off the 12 lock that we just salvaged. So yes, it's getting recursive. But while the concept of getting recursive is frightening for many, myself included, it's not that big of a deal here, as we can now just open up the green blocking the 12 lock, then open it, and just hop down to very easily leave. This one's a free solve, but a whole bunch of salvages, and most importantly, salvage 21, which provides the blank white to get back to the next world. But there's one more level still, so let's wrap back around at this to finish up the world. A negative salvage ID. How strange. but ultimately irrelevant in terms of solving, besides being strange. Because of that salvage point being there, we'll have to find a way to get past all those doors up top without actually salvaging them, thus stopping us from getting to the exit. For the lockless door, we'll need a negative or I master key to prevent salvaging by adding a copy, but everything else needs a bit more thought. Bringing our attention back to the actual start of the level, to progress we need to open the door on 0 masters, thus meaning all the masters before that have to either be spent or taken together. The tricky part after that then is, how can we get rid of the one master afterwards without ruining our opens? We know we'll need that -1 for the lockless, so somehow we have to be able to spend the 1. The question ultimately comes instead to, how do we clear our cyan? You could simply take all the negative cyans to clear the 10 and 10i, but then the -10 is where issues come along, as you either need to open the door at the start or use the master up top or master below. Either way would end up wasting the master or salvaging early, so this just can't work. So, probably unsurprisingly, we'll have to involve the starting door. But how? Good old I copies, mostly, is going to be the answer. Firstly, we could clear our 10 cyan, which would give a negative copy of the door, meaning we have to first get an I copy, then over-open the main side. That can be done rather simply using the negative I master, then spending our -10 cyan, using a negative master, then grabbing the cyan flip and master to open it once more, and finally over-open it. Then we can spend our I master to get rid of it, allowing us through, plus getting us a way to use our post-door positive master, and thus letting us have the negative. But then comes the problem of the remaining -10 plus 10i. We can get rid of the 10i trivially, but the -10 cannot be removed. We can tell it's impossible to get back to a positive copy of the door to remove -10, but the 10i could be done. And of note is the all lock on the door. This means even if open on an I copy, it will still take all of your keys, which would thus include the -10 cyan. So then, for the 10i, we have to retrace our steps to begin with, but instead of simply wasting the 1i master, we open the I copy, then use it on the door to get a 10i door. We then can follow the same steps as before until getting to the state of having -2 - 1 copies of the door, and finally we can just go back and forth until the final lockless door, where we use that negative master to get out of view. But, as said before, we're not done yet. Not even close. Alright, now it's time for this mess. So, the salvages we have throughout are available to activate at any time from the start, so we just need to find out what in this level we need to get to the end. From the end backwards, we have to get rid of 1, all of our masters, 2, all of our whites, 3, all of our cyan, and 4, all of our purple. Furthermore, we know one of these salvages has to be the bicolored green so that we can actually get green to clear that eroded door, which is thankfully a lockless white besides that. And moreover, that it has to be in either 18, 19, or 20 so that we can actually, open it. We can ignore the 99 masters for the final solve, though they can be used throughout to pick and choose our salvages much more easily. So, for white, there's a total of 101 positive and -26 of them. Because the -26 are unavoidable, we know we'll have to be at least 26 white by then. So, the glitch exact 0 can be safely written off as an option here. You should also make note of the bicolored white, which will set your white to -2x your pink. Besides that, there's not too much more we can glean about white yet, since we know nothing about our masters. So let's just move on to purple for now. We get -32 of them, and there's exactly 1 door to spin them on, a -8 lock. Well, you first thought maybe, as it was mine, to put the -8 lock on 18 and 19, we actually find that it's still impossible to spend them all normally, as the only negative master we get at the start cannot be used on any of those salvages before we must pick up a positive master, thus setting us back to 0 at the worst case scenario. So, we thus know the glitch 0 has to be used on Popal, and furthermore that a master must be used to skip the negative 8 lock. But we're not done yet, as we also need to get the state onto Popal, which can only mean still salvaging the negative 8 lock, but only for 19. And then mastering the 6 lock orange afterwards to actually keep the state on Popal. With that, 2 of our masters are spent, leaving only one more positive one to work with. Let's briefly move on to Cyan next, since we can more or less tell at a glance it'll involve the last positive one. Now, as mentioned before, 18 or 20, not 19 anymore since it's taken, will have to be the bicolored green door, but there are 2 doors asking to spend all of our Cyan, a straight up negative 3 lock and a negative blast, meaning one of them has to be mastered. We don't really need to pin down which right now, nor which salvage we use, because the info of that master being there, just being used, is more important than actually which. So, again, let's move on to a different one, orange. So since we've effectively used all the positive masters now, we know the 3 blank oranges at the end need to be opened completely normally, thus requiring us to spend all 37 of our orange one way or another. Because it's odd, we'll have to open the 3 lock, meaning we're effectively only working with 34 orange. Using modular rules, as per usual, this can never be reached off just 4 and 12 locks, which tells us quite a few things. Firstly, we need to spend another 6 orange, as that is the only way to reach something, 28 in this case, that can actually be removed with what we have. But if you think that means we salvage the 6 lock orange, you'd be wrong. We would be completely unable to open it at salvage 18 due to having negative orange, and the others either wouldn't instantiate or are taken, meaning we're left with one option, salvaging the 3 lock on 17, and then we can use our negative master on it. This divides perfectly amongst the remaining oranges, as we'll first go down to 15 oranges at start, then spin negative 12 later, and then the final 3 on the 3 lock. And finally, to bring things back around once more, let's talk about white. Now, again, since we've spent all of our masters, we're now working with just hard math, and just need to find the way to put it all together here with regards to white. To begin, we can cut out 49 white, since those are first spins now, bringing us down to 50. Since the other whites are also first, we know we'll actually have to be at 70 white by that final door and keep pickup, and since there's no white door that can fit in ID 20, that means having exactly negative 35 pink for that bicolored door, which is very neatly acquired by losing 15 more white, thus locking in our salvage at last, as 18 must take the 15 lock white, leaving 20 as the bicolored green, and the negative 3 lock as our official final master. And with that, we've effectively solved the level's key salvage, so I'll let this all play out. And at last, with that salvage, we can go back to the hub and enter the Dream Labyrinth. And that is that. A very calm before the storm world, in my opinion. There's nothing really to do outside of the levels, as the focus is much more on re-salvaging mid-level and more generally interacting with them within the level itself. This all comes rather naturally, at least to me, and the fact that everything you need to think about is once again isolated to the level itself makes it a lot simpler to manage, at least in my head. The part I think will get the most people is the instantiation stuff. It's not a mechanic most people would actually think about when it comes to salvaging, although it is logical. And I myself was definitely tripped up by it in my first playthrough, so I can get that one. However, the description it's introduced in and eventual lack of other options does work well to push the player towards kind of accidentally figuring it out just because, let me salvage whatever, and you just stumble into that one effectively. Knowing what comes next, this world very much feels like a warm-up. One last, here's the other mechanics of salvaging bump before the much more intense next world where you really just have to apply everything, and I mean everything. It's a lot. And, I'm hyping it up, but I assure you, if you made it this far, you've been able to follow along with everything, then there is nothing you can't do in this next world. There might be some tricky ones. There might be some you kind of have to brute force even a little. I'm mostly thinking of like one puzzle right at the start. But it's not impossible. But with that being said, I think I'm all done here, so I will see you there. Goodbye.